What if instead of showcasing our college degrees, job accolades, and prestigious awards, our resumes dared to list our detours, dead ends, failures, and employment gaps?
What if that list of all the scraps and screw-ups of our careers is where the real seeds of possibility lie?
We offer up the muddy mess to showcase that nothing is wasted. Every experience counts and creates the conditions for new life and growth.
The scraps, the leftovers, the discarded stuff. Its richness is the fertile soil for new life to take root. Even in the times we've been hurt, disappointed, let down, these shitty experiences make way for new learnings.
Here's former Korean pop star Soeun Lee's contribution to the shit pile.
So one of the things, Soeun, that we like to ask people is we think about moments in our lives, especially some of the hardest ones, and even just, the shittiest experiences, literally like as shit, like as compost and manure for significant growth in our lives. And so would love to hear you talk us through kind of what one of those horrible moments looked like for you, but that led to just the significant growth in your life.
Oh, wow. There's so many. I wonder which one. The manure in my life. I've had so much manure. I think one that pops to mind, and it's less about career, but I guess more about myself, is so right before the pandemic, I practiced law for 7-8 years. And I think when I went into it, I wanted to learn this universal language that would help me do whatever I wanted to do. I never thought I was going to stay a lawyer. I wanted to understand it. I wanted to be fluent in it. And it really helps with everything that I'm doing now. But I knew I didn't want to practice for that long because I'm an innately creative person and I miss that aspect of myself very much. And so I was planning a career change, but it's also, any type of change is daunting. Mm-hmm. Career change, especially when you're older, becomes scarier because there's more to lose. There's also more you're giving up. Mm-hmm. You always feel, there's also, you weigh the opportunity cost. I feel like I became more strategic that way because of law school. I used to be this crazy wild person who was like, do what you feel. But then law school is like, okay, let's put things into categories and figure out what, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. But that I did change in that way. So I was making these lists of, okay, when would be a good time for me to take that leap? Because I'd wanted to start like a creative studio for a really long time. I had ideas for kids media and content, and I'd wanted to take that leap. And I decided to, and then that kind of coincided with when the pandemic hit and I had my baby. And I remember it being, I don't think I'd ever felt like clinically depressed like that in my life. I had gone through a lot of stages, but it was kind of scary how much like feelings of utter despair I didn't want to go on that I'd felt. And that was kind of a new for me. And I think it was also maybe postpartum. It was also the pandemic. We were so isolated. Being a new mother during that time and with no help because everyone was afraid to bring anyone into your home. My husband, as Michelle might know, he's also a physician. So there's no work from home for physicians. They always have to go. And then I remember that time he would come home, we'd have a newborn and he'd be at the hospital all day. So we would sleep in separate rooms because he didn't want to, in case, infect anyone. So it was just the most difficult time. And I fell into this crazy depression also because I wasn't able to launch the plans that I had been planning. And I'd left law and I was about to launch and everything happened that made me have to take this very long pause. And being a career-oriented person, that really affected me. And I remember I used to, because I live in New York, and the only safe place during that time felt like, I could walk to the park. And even during, rain, snow, whatever, I would take this tiny newborn baby into the stroller and I would just walk for hours in the park because at least she would sleep. And I would turn on my Otter app and just talk into it because I felt like I needed to express myself, but I didn't have the time or the bandwidth to write anything down or to organize it. And I would just talk about my emotions and what I'm feeling at this moment, what I want to do, what this can actually, like, how can I turn this into something fruitful later? I would just talk and talk and talk for hours into this app. And it's funny because those experience and those emotions and what I was able to pour out in those times, that became the seeds for my second book that I wrote, which was published in 2022. It was such a personal, it's a book of essays about career and about life and growth. And I remember my editor telling me, because we'd been working on the book before then, and I told her, I can't write right now because I'm not myself. I don't have time to write, and I'm not in the right headspace. But she emailed me when I sent her a couple of pages, like kind of after my very low point had passed. And she said, I don't know what happened during the past 6 months, but your writing is different. And it hits me in a different way than your previous essays. And she's like, I feel really bad saying this, but I think you need to suffer a little more because your writing is so much better. She meant it in a very loving way. And I remember we had a huge laugh about it. But I think it sums up, it sounds so cliche, but it's actually true. What doesn't kill you does make you stronger. And it made me stronger. And I think that experience, it gave me a lot that I still hold on to. No, I went through that. I can go through anything, basically, you know?
It's so neat that it gave you literally a different voice.
Yeah. Because I think I needed to find little seeds of strength in a very kind of, a situation filled with despair for me personally and for the world, And I think that training is helping me in everything that I'm doing now because, things are not always going to be smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To hear more of Soeun's incredible journey, from debuting as a K-pop star at 16 to becoming a lawyer and now a studio producer, be sure to check out her full episode on A Life Worth Working.
In just 20 minutes, you'll hear raw, honest stories, the detours, dead ends, and defining moments that shape a life worth working. Because the path to purpose is rarely a straight line.
If you've ever felt lost in the spaghetti pathways of your career, you're not alone. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. And if someone you love is wrestling with work and meaning, share the show with them too.
Together, let's keep exploring the soul of work.